For the longest time, I wanted to make a video about Vagabond. Not just because it's one of the most beautiful manga ever drawn, but because it's one of the few stories that genuinely changed the way I think about strength, ambition, and what it means to grow. But I was never sure what angle to take. Should I talk about Vagabond as a whole? Should I focus on its art? Should I break down the philosophy? And then, after rereading the entire series, something finally clicked. And when I say rereading, I mean rereading everywhere. On the bus, in class, damn near everywhere. But instead, I was 200 pages deep into Musashi's existential crisis. Vagabond had me in a chokehold, and honestly, I didn't even fight it. Somewhere in that chaotic binge, I realized something important. Vagabond isn't the story of a man becoming invincible. It's the story of a man slowly realizing that chasing invincibility was the very thing holding him back. This is the story of Miyamoto Musashi, the man who stopped chasing invincibility. At the beginning of Vagabond, Musashi, or Takezo, is a wild animal. He's violent, impulsive, and desperate to prove himself. He thinks strength is the only thing that gives life meaning. He thinks being feared is the same as being respected. And honestly, he's not entirely wrong. Fear does get him attention. Fear does make people remember his name. But Vagabond makes something very clear, very early. Fear is not strength, and strength without purpose is empty. People fear wild animals too. That doesn't make the animal wise, disciplined, or fulfilled. And that's exactly where Takezo's problem begins. He wants to be invincible under the sun, but he has no idea what that actually means. He's chasing a title, not the truth. He's fighting ghosts, his father, his past, his own insecurity, without even realizing it. And Vagabond doesn't reward that mindset. It breaks it. One of the most important things about Musashi's journey is that he doesn't grow because he wins. He grows because he loses. His first fight with Inshun is the perfect example. It's chaotic, desperate, and raw. Musashi is fighting for his life, swinging wildly, completely overwhelmed. And internally, he's falling apart, even turning his back and running away. Inshun forces him to confront something he's never faced before. Fear. Real fear. The kind that shakes your bones. The kind that makes you realize you're not the monster you pretend to be. And after the fight, Vagabond does something brilliant. It doesn't focus on the clash of swords. It focuses on the aftermath, the reflection, the internal collapse. Because that's where Musashi's real growth happens. Every duel in Vagabond is a mirror. Every opponent reflects a part of Musashi he's been avoiding. And Inshun reflects the truth he's been running from. He's strong, but he's not complete. This is where Vagabond becomes something more than a story about swords. By this point, Musashi has already done the impossible. He's defeated 70 men. His name spreads across the country. People whisper about him as if he's something mythical, Musashi the Invincible. But Musashi knows the truth. He isn't invincible, and the more people repeat that title, the more empty it starts to feel. At one point, he draws a circle around himself and tells people not to cross it. Not because he's afraid of losing, but because he's tired of killing. That moment says everything. For the first time, Musashi isn't chasing strength anymore. He's questioning it. And that's what leads us to the farm arc. Instead of fighting, Musashi does something no one expects. He starts farming. It sounds simple, but for someone who has spent his entire life taking lives, learning to grow something is a radical change. Here, he learns patience. He learns humility. He learns that strength isn't about domination, it's about contribution. And slowly, he begins to understand something profound. Invincibility is just a word, but living is something else entirely. Now, to understand Musashi's growth, you have to look at Matahachi. He represents a completely different kind of human struggle. Where Musashi charges forward with purpose, Matahachi gets swept away by life, and sometimes by women.
Come on, man, what the fuck is you doing, cuz?
Matahachi isn't as strong as Musashi. He isn't focused, and he doesn't always make the right choices. But that's exactly why his arc matters. He shows the side of life where growth is messy, slow, and full of detours. He's a reminder that not everyone moves through the world with Musashi's drive or intensity. Then there's Kojiro, Musashi's other opposite. Where Musashi carries weight, Kojiro moves freely. Musashi fights to understand himself. Kojiro fights with a kind of natural, instinctive joy, like it's the one place he feels truly alive, and that's what makes their eventual meeting so fascinating. Musashi is a man who grew through pain. Kojiro is a man who grew through instinct, and Vagabond leaves us with a lingering question. What does strength truly mean? When the battle that matters is not between two swords, but within the men who hold them.
Man, what the fuck is you talking about?
What the fuck was that?
I'm sorry, man.
We'll never know. Maybe we will. I hope. Vagabond begins with a boy who wants to become invincible, but it ends, at least for now, with a man who realizes that invincibility was never the point. Musashi is still a legend. He's still strong. People still fear him. People still admire him. But those things no longer define who he is. He stops chasing the idea of being invincible and starts chasing something far more meaningful. A life that is truly worth living. And that's why Vagabond is more than just a story about duels, more than philosophy, more than the legend of a swordsman. It's the story of a man slowly learning what it means to be human. And that's why Miyamoto Musashi remains one of the greatest characters ever written.